The morning session, what we're going to do is we're going to have a bit of a legislative update. So we'll talk more about what we're doing in the Mass legislation. We'll have ample time for questions and that kind of thing. So we want to learn, too, what you can do to help us try to secure ourselves a future funding. Before we go any further and before we introduce the guests who are on the set, I want to recognize Representative Steve Owens. A few words to us.
Great, thank you. First of all, welcome to Watertown. Welcome to Watertown Cable Access. Thank you, Andrea, and the whole team here. The team does fantastic work. I love coming here and getting interviewed by Jim. I'm here at least every quarter, sometimes more, and it's just always a great time. And I want to welcome everybody to Watertown. While you're here, I hope you'll take advantage of some of our gems. I hope you'll visit an Armenian grocery store. The trees are starting to turn, so if you want to walk around Mount Auburn Cemetery, they put on a great show. Nature does. We have, I think, don't fact check me, but I think we have now the largest slide in a playground in Massachusetts over at Arsenal Park. So if you want to put the cop slide in City Hall Plaza, if you want to put that to shame and go down a bigger one, please, Arsenal Park. But you're in one of our community gems right now. You are in this pretty much brand new facility, and it is one of the things that really makes Watertown shine. It's not just because of this new space. It's because of all the work that they do, all the work that they put in. Anytime there's a community event at one of those places that I mentioned or beyond, they're there to share it with the rest of the community. And I know that's the kind of work that you all do, all the folks at MassAccess and everybody affiliated with them. I know that's the work that you guys do, and I know it because you guys came to the State House in droves, what was it, a couple months ago, talked about how important your operations are to your communities. And we heard it, like that. It was very clear how much your communities care about the work that you're doing, and that work is more important now than ever, right? I mean, we are right here in Watertown. We are in a local news desert, right? There's no local paper, and we used to have two. We used to have two local weekly newspapers. Now we don't have anything. We have Watertown Cable News, and we have a local website that's a labor of love, I'll put it that way. He does great work, but Charlie's not here, so I can talk about him a little bit. He does fantastic work, and I've told him he can never move because his local website is irreplaceable. But that's not a local news ecosystem, right? Where are people getting their news? They're certainly not getting it from national or even regional channels, right? I can't really even stomach national news for more than a few minutes at a time. Especially now. So they're getting their news from where? Like Facebook pages, from Nextdoor? I mean, those are places that the algorithm drives what people see. And what does the algorithm prioritize? It prioritizes conflict, prioritizes engagement. So all that people are seeing are those stories that kind of divide people, right? That's what people are seeing on Facebook. You said it. So what makes what you guys do so valuable? So valuable. Because you're the kind of people that bring communities together. And that is something that is so valuable right now, so necessary right now. And the thing that's going to get us through these, whatever trying times we have going forward are people like you doing the work in the community to bring people together. So I want to thank you for all the work that you do. I know they're going to talk a little bit about my friend Rep. Meschino's bill, so I won't talk too much about that. But just know that all the work that you do is valued. I'm so glad you're here in Watertown to talk about it and the work. And I hope that you'll come back sometime just for fun, because it's a great community and I'm glad to have Watertown Cable Access to help show it off. So thanks so much.
Thanks, Representative. We really appreciate your words, and your support is invaluable to our efforts. So thank you for being here, and thank you for everything you've done for us. We're going to get going with the program. Lindsay Toghill is here from O'Neill and Associates. Lindsay is our lobbyist, right? So Lindsay's job, she will tell you a little bit more about it because she's the expert, and I'm not going to pretend to understand exactly what she does, but she's good at it. I know that much. So Lindsay's going to talk a little bit about the process and give us an update. And of course, Rep. Joan Meschino is here from Hull, Massachusetts. And Rep. Meschino has been our champion for many, many years now. And maybe I'll tell the story about the first time we met Rep. Meschino. All right. The first time Melinda and I were together, and we were walking up and down the hallways at the State House, and we were dropping in offices and just talking about community media and the fact that we might have a funding problem. And this was so many years ago. We were talking about, well, in the future, we're going to have real problems with our funding. And we talked to several young people who are working in these offices, and they say, well, the rep or the senator is not here right now. And we got to Rep. Meschino's office, and we heard her say from the back, send them in. And we sat with Rep. Meschino at her desk, and she listened to us, and she heard us, and she made a connection with us right away. And we knew at that point that that was someone that we wanted to do business with, because Rep. Meschino has always been that for MassAccess, somebody who listens, somebody who has a better knowledge of anybody who's not in this business, of anybody I've ever known, and just someone who really cares. They don't make them a lot like Rep. Joan Meschino, so I want you to give her a round of applause. She's fantastic. And with that, I'm going to hand it right off to you and take my seat over here. No pressure.
Well, so thank you for that very kind and very warm welcome. And Andrea, thank you for welcoming us all here today. And I do just want to give a quick shout out to Representative Owens. Watertown is very lucky to have such a fantastic state representative. He is doing the work of the people. He is out here with the people, but his legislation is very forward-looking, and he is thinking about not just your situation and the needs of the community today. He's looking ahead to the future, and he is a fantastic climate champion, among other things. And so I think we need to give him another round of applause, because he's doing the work not just for Watertown, but for the whole state as well. And I also want to thank Lindsay Toghill. We're going to talk a little bit about, so what I thought we'd do today is just, first of all, good morning and welcome. But then I thought we could just run through a little bit of just a wee bit. You all are experts in the bill at this point in the game, but I just thought we could just talk a little bit, and I think sometimes it's helpful when you identify what your barriers and your challenges are. And what we really want to get to kind of quickly is our path forward and what our strategy is. And that's where Lindsay comes in. You all elevate, educate, and really kind of gin up member engagement, which you have done. And then it's my job to sort of navigate the committee and the language, and we're working on that. But what we're looking ahead to is how we then, I don't want to say compete, but we've filed collectively 7,000 bills, and some of them are equally weighty. Healthcare, there's a lot of things going on right now. And really that one leaps to mind, but budget, dealing with the federal uncertainty. So we're in this mix, and what the art of it, and that's where Lindsay comes in, what the art of it is how to elevate your bill to the Speaker's attention, to the Senate President's attention. And so that's where you're all going to come back in, and we'll be well guided by her. So just really quickly, Hadley, Hadley, boy, dedication. You came a long way, and I think that I just wanted to give you a quick shout out, because this group has probably been the most engaged and fantastic group that has stuck together. And really, you've got game. You people have game, and that is hugely important in all of this work. So I just wanted to give you a shout out because I think you're the one that came the furthest. So, and we can always count on from the far corners of the state for this group to come in, and that's why I know eventually we're going to succeed. So, all right, let's see. I'm touching. Hold on. Yeah, Harrison, my aide in the back, if you get a chance to talk to Harrison Bushnell, he will tell you that this isn't my jam. And I'm getting better at this. David, you have educated me, my friend. I'm getting better at this. So as I don't even really need to explain it, Rep. Owens really, I think his words really talked about the value, the core value, which you all know, and this is your job and your commitment and your careers. I think of this and I talk about this as the transparency bill, the sunshine bill. This is trusted government. This is everything you need for trusted local information. This is community engagement. This is the arts, and you're doing it. And I think Steve's words were very eloquent. And I'm not gonna try to do better, but just uplift his remarks from the beginning. But I did just want to put up so that you know what our context is. So my partner in crime is Representative Margaret Scarsdale, who is another fabulous state representative. And she actually was really taken by this bill. So you all got in there and really persuaded her as well. And she was the one who kind of came in at the end and got us out of committee last year. Mm-hmm. And I asked her if she would partner, and she's been a tremendous partner. And then the language was also filed on the Senate side by Jason Lewis. Senator Lewis is a tremendous partner as well, seasoned, savvy, and very good at navigating our colleagues on the Senate side. And those are two very different contexts, and that's important in what we're going to be discussing today. But then we also had a surprise. Representative David Vieira down on the Cape actually filed the original language, which was really kind of exciting because last session, if you recall, the Senate chair had some concerns and he rewrote our bill. And we were able to push back and kind of minimize some of the changes he put forward. But then and that got out of committee, and then we had a strategy discussion about what we were going to file this session. So even though we didn't like the language, we felt like we needed to step towards him as he stepped towards us so as not to aggravate him, which is important. And so we filed the language that got approved by the committee with the full intent that we would try to negotiate ourselves back towards the original language. And then, surprise of all surprises, your people got in there when Rep. Muraturi stepped away to run for the Senate. The crew down that way, all of the PEG access channels down there were concerned, right? Because they always communicated with him, not with me. And they were concerned that the bill get refiled, so they went to David. And Rep. Vieira filed it in the original language, hugely important to our strategy moving forward. So he did that as a favor to his people. He's deferring to us for the strategy, but he's in there with us. And what's nice is so we're working across the aisle, right? Because Representative Vieira is a Republican, Margaret and I are Democrats, and we're working across the chambers. So we have a great consensus in that way. The big differences between these bills is really the mechanism of how it comes into the state and to you. And that created some, we'll have to refine that language. But what we're hoping is that we can just say, pass this bill and use David's language. So we'll see how that goes. Lindsay will guide us on that. Just a quick bill summary. I'm telling you what you all know. Traditional cable, through the cable franchise laws for years and years and years, has assessed that 5% fee, and that 5% up to 5% fee. And quite frankly, there was also a lot of capital investments too. We are grateful to the cable operators for that. But in exchange for using those rights of ways, and they got exclusivity at that time, in exchange for those rights of ways, they were paying that fee into the public process and witness the wonderful, rich, vibrant ecosystem. So what we're saying is that we should be keeping pace with technology, And all as people start to embrace new medias, new technology for their entertainment media, we should also be following along in those things. And all of those companies who glean the benefit of reaching all of our residents should also pay into the infrastructure. And it's no different than, if you want to have a business here and you're driving on our roads and you pay our gas tax, it's the same thing. And these are in the public rights of ways. And I'm just going to remind everyone, everyone always says, well, cutting the cable. No. Then they might be moving away from a pay-for-TV cable franchise model, but they are still accessing us through the internet, on those same lines, on those same antennas that are coming in the rights of ways. So, that cutting the cable is a myth. The bill would impose an annually negotiated fee up to 5% of the streaming. The other thing that's different about the original way we did it was this would be at the state level. So it's at the wholesale level, it's reported through DOR, no more contract negotiations. I was a former selectman. Trust me, I did 2 of them with Verizon and Comcast, so I know what I'm talking about. And then the monies are collected and then distributed out in the mechanisms that we've all talked about. And those are the key salient pieces of the bill. And I just want to make sure, make sure we're all talking about it in the right way. Just a quick history. David did throw me up against the wall. I did agree to file the bill. Honestly, it's one of the best written bills that's come to me. We really didn't change much. And we were able to file that bill and start that conversation, that dialogue. And immediately people gravitated to it. But again, this isn't about how worthy or important your bill is. It's about what's going on in the context. So we've always enjoyed, the speaker's support. We've always enjoyed good dialogues with the committees, and that showed out. Last session, we were able to report it favorably out of committee, and then this session, Senate, there's new rules. Senate take up Senate bills and House takes up House bills. And this time around, Senator Moore was like, boom, done. Then he just moved it off to Senate Ways and Means. So now we're focusing on how the House will move forward. And we'll talk about that in a minute, too. We've already discussed the rationale for the bill. You do great work. We need it. And the whole point is a sustainable revenue stream. That is the whole point. And I think we've seen what a fabulous ecosystem that has happened, and now it's imperiled, and we need to get ourselves back in there. So we talked a little bit about the language compromise, and we can talk about how we navigate that moving forward. I just want to take a moment and acknowledge that the cable companies and DirecTV, they have come forward in opposition to the bill, and I just think it's important that we always are mindful of who is supporting, who are our stakeholders, and who is opposing, and for what reason. And I'm not going to validate their reasons in any way, shape, or form. I think they're entitled to make money. We want them to make money, but they should be paying into the public good. And I'd say that the DirecTV already pays into a different pot of money, and so I do think they have articulated some concerns. But the reason I put that up there was because their sort of attitude towards us is, we don't have to, you can't, we're not gonna, and you can't make us. So that's what the bill is for, is to say, no, this is a worthy investment, and you should, and you're going to. But what we really want to talk about is the hurdles to the finish line. That's what we really want to talk about. And when I say hurdles, I used that word very specifically because this is a long-term effort. And you are doing fabulous. Let me just tell you that House Chair told me that she has never seen this much member engagement in her life. And she's been in a lot longer than me. And what that means is that you have all got out there to your representatives, to your senators, and they actually took action and actually said something to the chair, sent the chair an email, sent the chair a letter. That is amazing. And that's how we're going to get across the finish line at the end of the day. So I just want to make sure to say that when I say hurdles, I don't want you to think of actual barriers. I want you to think of like a hurdles race, right? You know, a 440. That's what we're doing here. And it's going to take all of us. It's going to take a good strategy, and we'll be well guided. Trust me, Lindsay is very, very, very good at what she does, and that's what we're gonna do. I just want to make sure I said all the things I wanted to say. Okay, so grassroots advocacy, local engagement, building knowledge and momentum in the State House. So Lindsay, here we are. We have the bill is relevant. It's very timely. It's kind of scary how timely it is. It's very timely, and this bill has been well vetted. And those are the three criteria. That is what we're updating the Massachusetts general laws. That is a serious matter. It should be thoughtfully done. It shouldn't be rushed. All things should be taken into consideration on how we build that, how we secure that that steady and reliable revenue source, sustainable revenue stream for all of your good work. And it's going to take these three things and our path forward. And that's what we really want to talk about today. We have multiple languages on the thing. We have people paying attention. We have representatives who ask me about this regularly. So let's talk a little bit about what's next. I'm going to turn it over to you.
Good morning, everyone. I'm going to apologize in advance. I'm overcoming a sinus infection, so my voice may go a little in and out, but I'll try to power through. Thanks again to Rep. Meschino and Rep. Owens for the awesome introduction. I really appreciate it. This is a little unusual for me. I'm way more behind the scenes than in front of people, so please forgive me. I want to take a little bit of a step back and talk a little bit about process, because when you talk about hurdles, I think that is a significant hurdle that is different than what you've encountered in the past. So I will say a lot of people become disillusioned when they file a bill and it doesn't get passed in the first go around. Most bills don't get passed. Most laws don't get passed the first time, the second time, sometimes not until the third, fourth, or fifth time. So you're not unusual in that respect. In addition, I know when we first started talking about this, it was pre-pandemic, and then everything got sidetracked for a few years. So I would even say to you, forget the last maybe even 3 years of what you've been doing in that regard, because everything was focused on the pandemic. So I sort of feel like we're maybe at like 2022 at this point, right? If that makes any sense. What is different this legislative cycle than that has been in the past? The House and Senate came together and actually agreed to joint rules for the conduct of the House and Senate. That has not been done in, I think since 2019 had not been agreed.
That was the last time, yeah.
And so they did agree to a number of changes in the way that bills are processed. Number one, as the rep mentioned, House bills, once they go to a committee, the House bills are supposed to go back to the House. Senate bills are supposed to go to the Senate. This is entirely different than in the past, where the House members on any given committee could sidetrack a Senate bill. They could move anything because they had the numbers. Every committee has more House members than Senate members, and so the House always had the upper hand. The Senate this time around insisted on splitting the bills, which is kind of much more like what Congress does, and we know that that doesn't always work very well, to be honest with you. So you've already seen this happen on our issue. The Senate bill already got released from the committee, redrafted a little bit, and sent to Senate Ways and Means, where it is now sitting before Chair Mike Rodricks, who's from Fall River. He's a great guy. Anyone from Fall River? No? Okay.
Not today.
Not today.
That's all right.
Great. Well,
They're
we'll be
on the
talking to
team.
them later.
We'll be talking to them. That's right. Yep.
So that is a huge difference, because now you will have two parallel, sometimes pathways for every single issue and every single bill. The other difference is that they moved up the reporting deadline, what they call Joint Rule 10, by which every bill that is filed on a timely manner, which is yours, has to have an initial report made on it. It was in February of the second legislative year. Now it is in December of the first legislative year. So what you are already seeing is a huge push towards both House Ways and Means and Senate Ways and Means of bills that are coming out of committees, and that's only going to increase. So it's incumbent on us to try to push our issue to the top of the pile.
Right.
We're talking about hundreds of bills are already in the Ways and Means committees, and that is extremely unusual for what has been the norm in the last few years. So those two changes are really going to change how everything happens in the second year, which is really when most legislative matters are passed, and that when the legislative session, actually I should say there was another third change. Normally the legislative session ends effectively on July 31st of the second year. This year they have changed the rules so that bills that are in a conference committee or issues that are in a conference committee can be taken up after July 31st. So that would be things like an economic development
Right.
bill,
Yep.
where we've been in the past, the budget, any bond bills that they're doing, those things could continue on past July 31st. So you're going to see a lot of different action in the next 9 months than you probably ever would have before. So that actually gives us a little bit more runway, which is a good thing, but it also means that we have to work a little harder to get this issue up to the top of the pile.
Right.
So I think that that's a really big hurdle here.
I do just want to interject and add
Yeah.
that you will also notice that things are happen differently between House and Senate. They have very different. The chambers are very different.
Yes.
Part of that's just sheer numbers and volume on the House side and having to manage all of that. And so you shouldn't take anything from it that the Senate bills are just popping over quickly and the House bills are being held, because in fact a lot of House bills are being held and extended through the end of the year, which is when they'll start to take action. And so really what it did was, instead of a February 1st Joint Rule 10 deadline, it's really more like a December 31st Joint Rule 10 deadline. So you're going to see a lot of this action starting to happen in November, December, January.
Right.
Yeah, so in those 3 months. So this discussion is incredibly timely.
You'll also see the nature of the two bodies, which if you have been watching a little bit over the last few years, you'll notice that the Senate has always been much more activist. They only have 40 members, whereas the House has 160 members. And so the Senate has always been a little bit more activist on a number of issues.
Yes.
And you will start to see over the next, and it's already happening now. I mean, the Senate has already passed a data privacy bill. They've done some other stuff that the House hasn't even really started their work on yet, because they feel like they need to be the first ones out there to get some of this stuff done. So I think that that's going to change
Right.
a lot of conversations going forward, or influence a lot of conversations going
Yep.
forward. The other huge issue, as you mentioned earlier, that is a hurdle, but I think it's a huge opportunity for us, is this uncertainty around federal funding, but also what the feds are doing on every single issue. I'm going to say the feds. I think we all know more of who I'm talking about, but states like Massachusetts have started to feel, and have been feeling, I guess, for the last few months, a real urgency toward shoring up the things that we really care about, right? You're starting to see the governor take action on issues of reproductive health. You're starting to see college presidents coming out and talking about free speech. These things that Massachusetts has always stood for and that we really still believe in are really becoming an issue, becoming a point of urgency within the State House and within the governor's office too, and even the constitutional officers, the Attorney General, to take up and to shore up and to make sure that we're not going to lose those parts of our identity. You all have really filled the gap on local news, as Rep. Owens said. This is where you really shine. And this is an opportunity to restate to the legislature and to emphasize to the legislature, I feel, who you are, what you do, why it matters more than it did, quite frankly, 2 years ago, more than it did 6 years ago. This is an opportunity to say, we have to make sure that community media remains a viable source of free, for the most part, other than this, independent and reliable source of local information that is not being disseminated anywhere. I mean, even the Boston Globe doesn't even have their regional sections anymore on the Sunday paper, right? Because they can't. They don't have enough reporters. So even those little bits of information that used to come out in the Globe or in the Herald don't exist anymore. You all are filling the gap that has never been there. I think from your point of view, reliable funding, reliable revenue is a huge issue. That's why you started talking about this issue. But I think it has evolved, and I think that our talking point in the State House has to continue to be, it's about fairness, right? Equity. If streaming services aren't paying their fair share, they should be. But where does the state want to invest? What is important to Massachusetts? What is important to legislators in the State House, to the governor? Is your industry, is what you do worthy of investment and protection? Because that's really what it is. You've seen the cuts to PBS. WGBH was knocking on my door last night asking for money. You know, the opportunities that are out there now for people to get reliable and sustainable information on their communities and what's really going on in their world are becoming smaller and smaller. And so that's an opportunity, I think, that we really need to take advantage of.
And this is why Lindsay's here. You know, as a legislator, I can pull it out of committee. I can marshal the truth, but there's also an inside the building game. There's an outside engagement piece. You have to call for the change you want, and I think we've been doing that. I think we've been doing it very successfully. And I think what we shifted was, quite frankly, people like me taking you all for granted, that you were just there, and that you were always just going to be there because you're like librarians. You don't complain. You never say, here's what we need. You always figure out how to do more with less. And it was what David was referring to was a conversation where he persuaded me very clearly what the path, the trajectory was. And I think we've done that. I still don't know why they said yes to us, but the Department of Revenue will do research projects on revenue questions. And we asked them, our office asked them, and they said yes. And they confirmed for us that the projections that you were making, MassAccess was making, around the cable subscriptions, in fact, was mirroring the lost revenues. And then they were able to project for us what the replacement revenue was. So as we followed those I guess I don't want to say consumers, but as we followed people in terms of how they were using and consuming technology, and we looked at that and they projected it, it really was spot on in the numbers that we were projecting, and that validated us. And I think it also woke everybody up to it. But to Lindsay's point is now we need to change and pivot our strategy, and that also means we have to change and pivot how we talk about things. And you know this better than I do. You taught me this, that you always have to be mindful of your audience. And that was part of why we wanted to do this today with Lindsay, was because it's a long process, which is important and good. Don't just don't
get discouraged.
Don't get discouraged. You want this thoughtfully done, because that's how you protect and shape how you secure what you want. But we do need to pivot now, because the process has changed a little bit, but we're also in a different part of the process. We don't have to, we're always talking about the value of what we're doing, but you've already got your legislators. Now we have to decide, what do we need them to do next, and how do we guide you all to talk to them, and how do we guide them in what they're going to do and what they're going to say next. And I think that's the piece that I know sometimes it feels like, well, I already went in and talked to Joan. Yes, you talked to me, but what is my next step? And legislators, this is what we do. We deal with tremendous amount of advocates, individuals, advocates, our communities, lobbyists, all sorts of groups and things like that. And that's always and that's what I always say to my people that come into me, my residents that come into me, is keep me posted as it moves through the process. Be my ambassador so that I know what to do and when to do it. And that's where we're shifting now, I think, is doing it. So I did want to give you a little update on kind of where we're at with so the the Senate has moved the bill over to the senator has moved the bill over to the Senate Ways and Means. And we will defer to Senator Lewis, very seasoned, honestly, if he was the one that negotiated and got the Student Opportunity Act out. That man can do anything. So we have a great partner on the Senate side, and I can't really speak to the culture over there, but on the House side, the committee staff, part of what we also have to do is not just validate what we're doing, but the House will also ask, well, did you think about this? Did you look into that? So we're starting, that process has been happening. So they're actually researching, should this be the 5% franchise fee, or should we think of another mechanism like sales tax? And so they're researching both of those things to validate the research that you've already done through the outside counsel. They're also going to ask us things like, have you spoken to other stakeholders? What's MMA stand for? I'm sorry.
Mass Municipal Association.
Thank you. So in fact, we've had long conversations and dialogues with them, and so one of the things that we've asked MassAccess to do, activate the select boards to actually go in and remind MMA. They already know it's important. We have already had that conversation. Again, there's so many issues going on right now, and they're chasing a lot of priorities. We need the select board members and the town managers to tell the MMA, no, this needs to be at the top of your pile to help us get there, or at least don't oppose it, right? Like sometimes the win is just getting someone to not oppose it.
Right.
So, and that's just one example. We're going to the metro mayors, we're going to the regional planners. So those are some of the strategies that we need to do now. And so that's some of the things that we need to talk about are, what is it that the committee, what is it that House Ways and Means, what is it that the Speaker's office is going to look to? Who are the stakeholders that they're going to turn to and say, what do you think about, Meschino has this bill, what do you think? And we want to have anticipated all of those stakeholders and checked all those boxes. So so the past couple of months have been a little, from your perspective, probably a little quiet. But that work is ongoing. I don't know if you wanted to talk about that at all and how important it is to the ultimate conversations.
So whenever I've gone into the State House to talk to anybody about a bill, more frequently when I'm on the opposition side, people always say to us, but have you talked to the people on the other side? And I feel very strongly that we can say, yes, for years we've been talking to Verizon, we've been talking to Comcast. They groan when they see me coming, honestly. I'm sure you have the same experience.
I get the rap.
And have you thought about X, Y, or Z? Have you thought about alternatives? And I think that that's a conversation that we've been having, and I think that that's something really important to be able to say, yes, we're open to whatever alternatives that you want us to look at, but we can't, stasis is not sustainable, quite frankly. And I think that that's extremely important, is to be able to say, we have engaged, we have talked to everybody, please talk to us, because we really do need to find a solution for this problem, because it's not a reality that we can continue
to their credit, DirecTV comes in every single year. We filed this, and they're like, can we sit and talk with you? I said, of course you can. I recognize your concerns. Give me language, because I'm not, sometimes these are technical things. I said, just give me language and we'll consider it. And we've been open to that every step of the way. Yeah.
The hardest part about this in that regard is that for years, people on the other side have just been saying, this is a new tax. This is a new tax. We're going to pass it on to the bill payers, and they're going to come crying to us. You're just trying to tax us more. And in fact, the former chair of the committee that this was before said that to me point blank. It's just a new tax. I think that that's a conversation or a talking point we have laid the groundwork to overcome. We just need to keep hammering the points back. No, this is equity. This is fairness. You set up a system that is, quite frankly, becoming obsolete. If you want to see community media exist in the future, you have to keep evolving. You've seen states like Florida evolving, right? I mean, we're behind Florida on this. That's nuts.
Yep.
I don't think anybody likes to hear that in the State House, quite frankly.
No, not Florida anyway.
Yeah.
Well, and it's interesting because during the hearing last session, they said, well, this is that came out in the hearing. This is just a tax. And I want to be clear, I'm not being cute with the language here. I am being precise with the language here. If this is a tax, then it's going into the state fund, the general fund, and that's just more money to be spent on other things. And there's no mechanism to tie it to your good work and to guide that there. And then when, I mean, in the past, some of us have been kicking around for a long time, and when you have economic downturns and there's financial strains and pressures, the first thing that happens is these line items just go away. So it really, if it's going to be sustainable, then it really does need to be an update to the existing franchise laws, because those mechanisms are already in place for that money to come to you for this purpose. And that is a choice. That was a strategic choice, and MassAccess brought that to me. That's not me. That's just me advocating for it. And so, you know, I've had a couple of reporters, I've had a couple of members saying it's just a tax. Let's be precise with our language and create that nexus. And that's a case that we've been following pretty closely, was the Wayfair case. And what it is not even so much the outcome of the case, it was the way that the court talked about creating that nexus between why we're asking for the fee, how the money comes in, and how the nexus is created to the important public purpose, because this is an important public purpose. And so it's having those technical conversations with people that I think you've done very well. And I think we have laid the foundation, the groundwork for that. And not for nothing, the other theme that came out from Revenue Committee was it's too much money, which let's just set that aside, because I actually think you deserve more. But we'll just set that aside. But a state tax is more than the 5%. So I mean, I think we're being precise with our language. We're being targeted and making choices on how to connect it and why it stays with you and can't be disrupted. And quite frankly, I think we're being modest and saying, look, no one's going for, you know, big raises and all these things. Like, we're going for the money that we should be able to rely on to do the work we need to do.
There is one final hurdle that we haven't talked about, and I want to mention this before we open up for questions, because I know everybody has some questions, is that the way that the legislature has been passing laws in the last 10 years, quite frankly, very few standalone pieces of legislation pass, right? Unless it's a sick leave bank or
home rule petition.
Home rule petitions, very few actually pass and become law. Most issues get combined into large omnibus bills and go through the process that way. So part of our need to be flexible, to be open, is that would be our future. That will be our future. When we get something passed, it will be as part of something else. Mm-hmm. And so I want to make sure that we're just continuing to be open, evolving, using the right talking points, because that is the likelihood of this passing, is that it's included in something like an economic development bill.
Right. The budget.
Could
be an outside section of the budget.
The governor is looking at some new business-friendly initiatives that she's going to pass at some point. These are all things.
You're all businesses, and businesses rely on you. Thank you, Tel Aviv.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I think people get really frustrated when they see things get included into a large bill, but that's actually the way that things are being passed now. They really are not.
Right.
And I don't know why that evolution's actually happened. I've been doing this a long time, and I remember.
Oh, I do.
The years of Tom Finneran, when there would be hundreds of outside sections in the budget, right? They would do all the policy stuff in the budget, and they wouldn't do anything else in the rest of the year. That doesn't happen anymore. So
it actually can work in our favor, because there's 160 representatives on the House side, and I don't know how the Senate really works in this regard, but if they put everything in there, and you have something in there, you're not going to vote no. And unless some of us have like a little threshold of like 70-30, like it's like, oh, that's in there, and then finally sometimes there's a poison pill and everyone's voting no. But what it is it's a way of bringing things along, and so it helps us in that we have had some critics. But no one's going to vote no on a bill that they have something in there. And if there's something for everybody, then it moves. So it actually, it's incredibly stressful as a legislator to try to find your path and to try to figure that piece out.
Right.
But we just don't want you to be surprised when I say, all right, we're going to try for the budget, outside section for the budget. And then you're thinking, why didn't she throw down on the floor? Why didn't she make a roll call vote? Because I'm waiting for the next opportunity. And sometimes the other thing you should just know is there are House priorities and Senate priorities. And when you work with partners across the chambers, sometimes you also have to say, well, I'm going to withdraw because I know I have a second bite of the apple. So there's strategy afoot. So don't be surprised by it. Just help adapt with us as we move through our opportunities. I tell you, if something came out, if an economic bond bill came forward, in November, trust me, we would just be on it like that. So it won't happen. I know. But
They're going to wait till June 30th. Let's be honest here.
They'll wait for June 30th, and because it's an election year, and so there will be an economic development bond bill.
But this is why the grassroots piece that you are already doing is
Yes.
really important to sustain. A lot of people look at the Mass Restaurant Association as a really effective organization in terms of getting their point across, in terms of advocating for the things that they do. And you know why? Because every time a legislator goes into an MRA restaurant,
Yeah.
that restaurant owner is like, hey, I
That's
got to
right.
talk to you about something. And I have seen it. We represent other industry associations
great
that are not
example.
quite as obvious.
Yep.
And they don't want to engage in that way, but that's what you have to do. Every time you see somebody at the grocery store, you're saying, hey, I need you to get that done.
Right.
You're getting your supporters to also point that conversation out.
That's right.
Select board
Select
people
board members,
should be doing the same thing.
school committee too.
Yes,
Yeah.
consistent on message advocacy at the grassroots
Yep.
is extremely important.
Yep. And it's not complicated. We need a sustainable revenue stream. We need this bill to pass. That's all it has to
We
be.
need equity.
We need equity. We need equity. I like that. That's so much better.
Equity.
We need equity. This is why we hired her. So,
The revenue piece is obviously
Yeah.
why you started this, right? But if that's our only talking point, we're
yeah.
selling ourselves
I just
short.
wanted to put, we didn't get Lindsay's contact information up there, but so if you want to be in touch with me and my aide, I just wanted to put that there. But honestly, you shouldn't be calling Lindsay, you should be calling David.
Call David.
Who is a tremendous.
I'll put you in touch.
That's right.
I'm
Tremendous,
kidding. I'm kidding.
tremendous leadership skills, and you are very lucky that David is at the helm right now. And I will just make another pitch for filling those other 3 seats, because this can be tedious and it can be exhausting work. It requires sustaining a positive engagement across a long period of time, and you're busy. It's your second thing you do, and it's your work, your community, your families, and then this. So we do understand and we appreciate how much you guys put into it, and thank you for that. So David.
Thank you. I often say I have 2 full-time jobs and one I get paid for.
Great.
So I did want to say, and I've been sitting over here trying to think of how to say this really nicely.
Uh-oh.
It's not about you.
Oh.
Well, it is. It involves you.
Maybe it's about me.
Right? So, but what I take from this conversation is, you hear Rep. Meschino and you hear Lindsay, and they talk about us, we, our bill, right? This is a collaborative effort, right? And we are extremely fortunate to have such dedicated people on our side, right? And I think this is the part that bothers me about it. We see the same sort of people at all of these events, and anyone who's in our business who's not optimistic slightly about the prospect of this bill is not in this room. And they don't understand how much is going into it and how much work is being done on this. We're not talking about it on a daily basis. I know I should be updating you more, but maybe there's not an update. But that doesn't mean that there's not work being done on this every single day. And not just from us. It should be from you too. You've heard that numerous times throughout the morning. That advocacy needs to be continuous. You're not bothering the rep by calling the rep's office and saying, hey, what's going on with that bill? They want to hear from you, right? Am I
do.
correct?
Or
We
better yet, call
absolutely
your
do.
own legislator and
Yeah.
say, hey,
Yes.
what's going on with that bill?
Yep.
Not to
Exactly.
take it away from you, but
Right.
that just reminds them too
Right.
that you care about it and
Yeah.
that they should be
Yeah.
responding.
And all you have to ask them is, could you just check in with Rep. Meschino, Rep. Scarsdale, and see where things are at?
Or the speaker.
Or the Speaker's office.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that makes a difference because that's what's going to help us get over the top, is that, let's be honest, I think that's what happened with the Senate side of things. They're like, well, I don't want to listen to those community media people. Let's just move it on, and we don't have to worry about it
You know,
anymore.
actually, I do actually believe that the senator came around. He came around because every time he walked into his community media center, they were like, well, so where are we at? And he made the mistake of giving a few squirrely answers. I'm just going to say it out loud. I don't care if he sees this, but he did. He was kind of vague and didn't give like a forthright answer. All I had to say was, we've taken it under advisement. But he gave a few kind of funny answers, and boy, they were like, oh, no. And then they sent everyone in after him. So to make sure that, he remembers, to make sure it's at the top of his mind, to make sure. So, and you're building a relationship with your state rep and your state senator. And honestly, given the work that you do, you should absolutely know these people, and they should consider you a trusted resource. That's where you want to get to, is that when they see your email, they go straight to it. Get thousands of emails, but I tell you, when I see certain people and their emails, that catches my eye because I know they're a trusted resource. I know them personally. They've advocated, and that doesn't mean that I agree or disagree. It just means that I recognize the names and I trust the information that they give me. So that's what you're really going for, is that being that trusted resource. Yeah.
So there was a little bit of an update that we had the other day, and we haven't really talked about that.
Mm-hmm.
So can we talk a little bit about the update that you received and the rationale behind it?
Are we talking about from the committee staff telling us that they're doing research?
Well,
are we-
they've
extension?
extended.
They extended it.
Yeah.
Oh, the extension. So, as Lindsay pointed out, we actually have joint rules, which is good and positive, and quite frankly was fantastic, because now we have 10 days notice for the hearing, and may I just pause and tell you, you were prepared and you did fantastic. That was such a great hearing. We were all together, it was consistent, it built off of everyone's testimony. Whereas if you think back on last year, it was a scramble because we found out so close contemporaneously to the hearing. It was a scramble to get everybody in there, and then it was like throughout the hearing, people popped in or were able to do, so it didn't have the sort of the cogency. This time I felt it was great. And on the House side, they are taking the opinion that even though we agreed to bills coming out within the first 60 days, and there's an automatic extension of 30 days, the House is taking the opinion that they can extend at the chair's discretion bills however long, indefinitely, and that's what's happened to us. That is not a bad thing, because they are doing research, and we did check in. Harrison checked in with the committee staff. Honestly, my big concern is that the other two big items in the committee is privacy, right, around information and minimizing and restricting the use of your personal information, and that's important and good and big. And then, of course, everybody's interested in AI, and I don't think we're really going to see much on that. But so that's where the advocacy comes in, is making sure that they do not get distracted by other weighty things. But yeah, so we've had it extended, and quite frankly, the other option is to study or ought not to pass. So extensions and billing in time and giving us the opportunity actually are positive in our chamber. I don't know how the senator would have felt otherwise, but it's positive in our chamber.
Agreed.
And I will just say is that part of the reason, so just so you all know, I'm actually the one that advocated for bringing Lindsay on board, because what we really need to do is find a path to the floor for a vote. That's what we're doing. And there's art, that's art. There's art to that. My job is to get this a favorable report, and we will do that. But then there's the art. Once it goes to to House Ways and Means, there's a lot of bills hanging out there, and there's
Right.
an art to pulling that forward. There's an art to finding a path to the floor, and that was what Lindsay was talking about when she said, they usually come forward in big bills and big opportunities, and that's why sometimes when you find out that something's moving and you're trying to attach your things to it, sometimes things will happen really quickly, and we'll just be like, all right, really quick, everybody, we just filed an amendment, call your legislators and tell them to sign on, right, to check that box.
You have
So
36 hours.
You have 36 hours, so sometimes things will happen quickly.
Excuse me.
But that's part of the art of it. So, and the crazy life that we lead and why we drink. Why my camera's going gray.
That's true.